it would shock you to know how many women write on their prayer cards or come up personally and have us pray for them because they are relapsing, or like they've gone 100 days without it, or they're wanting to get sober.
And you're talking about the Suboxone specifically.
Suboxone or any other drug that they do.
Okay.
I don't know, but that they want to get sober if they can't because it's right in front of them.
Do you want to tell us what your name is?
Allison Barnes.
And so where are we meeting at right now, Allison?
We're in Nashville.
And so this is your hometown?
It is. I mean, I grew up in Memphis, but I've been here since '06, so I feel like it's my hometown.
So you're a Tennessee native girl.
Yes.
Okay. And how was it for you growing up in the South?
It was great. I mean, I did grow up very sheltered, private school from kindergarten to senior year, all girls. And then went to Ole Miss, so typical transition. I majored in psychology, but ended up in technology sales. So that's what brought me to Nashville.
So you're just a typical Nashville girl working in tech, being your regular Southern belle, living life. And so what do you do in your life? Like what brings you joy? What helps you to feel like your life has value?
Yeah, so I mean, over the past few years, my sales is pretty exhausting. I used to have a lot more energy, and then just as I've grown in my faith and just grown in other areas of my life, just gotten more mature, I guess I would say. I wanted to do something, even in sales, that brings a better outcome for people or corporations, whatever it may be. So, which is where, selling a computer brings me no joy. What I do sell is a platform, and anyway, I won't get into that, but the outcomes on healthcare and things like that, it affects. But I also, through my church, I've kind of always been a true crime person, watching trials on the side. And then my church announced that we were partnering with God Behind Bars. So that just perked my interest. And so I applied, went through the background check, took forever, then COVID hit. So it was like a 2-year process to get me in. But basically we get there Thursdays and to the women's max security and do a church service. And then I also mentor.
So you're going into the women's prison. And what prison is that?
It's DJRC, so Deborah Johnson Rehabilitation Center.
Okay, and is that here in Nashville?
It is.
Okay, and so how long have you been going in there?
About 2 years.
And so when you first started going in there, you were just taking in church services?
Yes.
Okay, and so what was that like for you? And, was that a population that you were familiar with at all? And was it intimidating for you? Just tell me a little bit about that.
So it was definitely not a population I'm used to. It was not intimidating. I do watch crime, so there's some women in there that I've seen their trials, but I walk in and I got chills like the second I walked in, because I am a very empathetic person, and I just see people as they are. I mean, I walked in there with no judgment, and to be honest, it's changed who I am. I'm much less judgmental. I'm much less I just don't look at people based off of their offenses, but it's more about helping them feel loved, because there's so much brokenness. So it's a very heavy, I'll say that, when we go in there. Lots of women, charges all over the place, but as people know, I mean, drugs are the core to a lot of crimes, right? Like, so it's not just the dealers, it's the aggravated assaults, it's the robberies, I mean, everything like that. So it's bad. I mean, it's hard on them.
So how many women do you think you've been able to interact with since you've started? Just roughly, like a guesstimate.
Oh, God. Each week we have on average 80 to 90 come. Obviously, I don't talk to all of them, but I do take their little prayer cards home and scan them so I know their names. I keep up with their stories. So hundreds, I mean, I've come across, but there's a handful of women that I've watched and kept closer contact with that have gone through it and gotten out and then seen their transitions. So
And so are you the person that manages? So do they give you prayer cards every time they come into the service? And you're the one that manages all those cards?
I do.
And you read every one of those cards?
Everyone.
And you spend time praying for each one of those women?
Every one of them.
And
I save them all like in a box.
so when you read those prayers, and not to ask you to identify any person in particular, but what kind of things are these women asking for?
The main things I see are the cool thing is a lot of them pray for each other, for the women in the compound. So for peace, for grace, and then, to bring them closer to God. A lot of them say they want forgiveness. The hardest is, I want to be in contact with my family and I haven't heard from them in weeks or months. So a lot of family stuff, praying for family, praying for addiction. 9 out of 10 are saying, help me with my addiction. And then just strengthen them and help them hold on to hope.
So 9 out of 10 are addicts.
Absolutely.
And what about moms? How many do you suspect are parents?
That's another thing is the postpartum depression. They'll have babies and have to give them up right away.
While they're in prison.
Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of moms. We did a Christmas event this year where we let the kids come in and see their moms, and it was just amazing experience. But for the moms who can't get in touch with their kids, or they've done something and they won't forget them, it's hard being a parent.
So if you had to guess on a percentage of the women that you are serving or at least engaging with during your services, how many of those are parents, do you think, and on a percentage scale?
If I'm guessing, I'd say 75%.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. And do you know what the overall population is in the maximum security unit of this prison?
Like how many?
Yeah. How many does it hold? Or even the entire prison, if you have an idea.
I might totally botch this. I think 500 or so.
Okay.
It's really the place where it is a max security place, but everyone that comes in goes there to get classified and then they're sent off. So
so is it kind of a receiving unit when they first come into the prison system?
It is.
Okay. All right. Yeah, those are typically max because they're unclassified.
Yes.
So, okay, that makes sense. So you actually get the opportunity to be with these women when they're first starting their prison time.
Yeah.
So, and do you know what the range of time they typically will spend in that area, in that unit?
Like at the prison?
Yeah, in the receiving unit.
Okay, yeah, before they're classified.
Yeah.
I believe it's 30 days.
30 days. So you're only getting action on connecting and trying to make a difference with these women for about a month.
Well, no, if a lot of them do end up staying there just because it's, for whatever reason, but there's a lot of life prisoners there.
Okay. And so those women get the opportunity to come in as well. So I'm guessing it's sort of a mixed classification prison.
Yep. There's different units. So there's 1, 2, and 3. 1 is for the most well-behaved. 2 is for the, let's say, troublemakers. And then 3 is solitary confinement.
Okay. And that's outside of the reception area.
Right.
Okay. And so, and do you get the opportunity to have contact with each separate unit?
I have gone into unit 3 where they're in solitary confinement, and just gone door to door and prayed with them.
Yeah.
But not in unit 2 one time, but not unit 1. So they don't typically have us go in those buildings, but we do our service in the gym. I do my one-on-ones in the chapel. So.
Okay. And so when you bring a service in, is it just a regular worship service where you're coming in, you're praying to open, you guys sing some hymns, you preach some of the word and maybe share some, testimonies and then,
Yeah, so basically our head pastor, preaches on Sundays, and then they record it, and so we bring it in, and then we show it to them. So it's not live, but
okay.
it is. So yeah, it's singing, it's service, and then prayers.
And do you find that a pretty large portion of the population in the different units actually engage with your service?
So yes, I will say we've watched over time. It used to be that the back row, it was really just kind of there to get out of their units, but over the past 6-8 months, it's silent, it's focused. They're praying, they're holding hands, praying for each other. It's just beautiful.
And so do you have any idea where that shift sort of happened and what contributed to that?
I think it is, I think the messages are really, they resonate with them, but I think it's really like times are so evil right now. And people are desperate for hope, for someone to just be there for them and comfort them.
And so when you say times are desperate, I think that we recognize that in our regular society, right, in our communities. And so has there been a shift inside of the prisons here in Tennessee as well?
I feel so. I feel, yes.
And so what do you, because I know that you and I have talked quite a bit over the last couple of years. And so I'm just wondering if you can sort of identify what you have seen since you've been taking services and then, of course, mentoring, and we'll talk about your mentoring here in a minute. But I'm just wondering if you could talk about what you've seen as a transition with the environment and what's changed in there.
And, I do think that they're trying to do a lot to change things. The biggest shock to me, just being transparent, is the drugs inside of the prison.
And so there are a lot of drugs in the prison.
A lot of drugs.
What kind of drugs do you know?
I have heard, I don't know. I know Suboxone is big, and meth.
Now, is the Suboxone supplied by the prison? Oh, okay. So people are actually sneaking that in. And are you familiar with Suboxone? Are you aware that is a medical assisted treatment, regularly used drug?
Yes, I did not know, but now I do. I've learned a lot.
So our systems use those as a solution to the drug problem. And so you're having a different experience based on what you're seeing inside of there. So can you talk a little bit about that, what you know?
Yeah, it's hard. It's surprising. I don't want to be critical because I know it's probably very hard for them to catch everything. But it would shock you to know how many women write on their prayer cards or come up personally and have us pray for them because they are relapsing, or like they've gone 100 days without it, or they're wanting to get sober.
And you're talking about the Suboxone specifically.
Suboxone or any other drug that they do. I don't know, but that they want to get sober if they can't because it's right in front of them. Some people never had done drugs and they start in there. And it just shocks me that does happen. I know it happens everywhere, but it's hard. I mean, a lot of girls are wanting off, but they don't want to be sick in that environment. So when you say sick, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but when you say sick, I'm guessing that they're talking to you about what that means. Yes.
So what is your perspective of what that means?
I mean, it sounds to me as though it is sick from both ends.
So vomiting and diarrhea associated with the Suboxone.
Yes, for days and days. Weeks. Achy legs.
Yeah. Sounds a lot like heroin addiction.
Right.
And I only say this because I am familiar with Suboxone because I've used it to kick heroin because it's a level 3 narcotic.
Right.
Okay. So people are abusing that drug.
Yes.
Yeah. They become dependent on it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very. And it's hard for them to taper off. To my understanding, I'm learning a lot about it. And it is very interesting. It makes my heart hurt because I do feel that drugs are just And as someone who has not had that experience, looking from the outside in, it just to see what it does to people's lives, it's just horrible. Um, yeah, it's horrible.
So you've been mentoring people for about how long?
So I've had a girl that came up to me almost a year ago, and I had kind of had an eye on her. There's certain girls that I get a sense of they're quiet, but I know who they are and their cards, and so I just keep an eye. And this one girl had an eye, and she sat down. I had been gone for about 3 weeks, and she sat down and was crying, and she said, "I've just had it. I can't. I don't know what to do." And I said, "Well, would you be interested in doing one-on-one mentoring?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, how far away are you from parole?" The deal is they have to be 6 months to a year from their parole date.
To be mentored.
Yes. And she was about a year away. And so she said yes. So she signed up, and the next week they assigned me to her. So I started out going like 2 or 3 times a week to meet with her. She'd never even opened up a Bible. And she has given her heart to Jesus, and she's, it's a work in progress. She still struggles. She has lots of questions. She has questions with her identity. She has questions with what happened to her as a child. She has, there's a pattern I do see in there now. I'm learning that leads to this. I'm not saying everyone, but it's just, it is. You asked me how life was growing up. I mean, I had no idea, like, what others are going through. I mean, it just, like I said, it changes my perspective on just people. I mean, and I just would love to be able to help people somehow, like and you're doing all the work to find that solution, but somebody has to.
And what I know about you is that you've been very passionate in trying to help the women that you get the opportunity to serve, and that your heart is very much involved in it. And it's very important to you. And so I just wonder, through your mentor relationship, what kind of parameters are there? What do you have and get the opportunity to do, and what kind of things are off limits?
Well, so, I mean, you definitely have to establish boundaries. There's the whole thing of manipulation, I've learned.
Did you learn the hard way, or did you learn from somebody educating you?
A little on the hard way. And I'm a very giving person. So, but I have learned about it. And so there's boundaries, and I have to learn. I have to just be very careful to have her open up. She opened up with me quickly. So what I do, I mean, really, it's helping her spiritually, because I cannot help her come out of addiction, right? I mean, or anything else. Like, it's a higher power, and her own will. But I can lead her there, and then also from a re-entering into society. We're going through resumes, like, and applying for jobs, and just the way she carries herself and talks. I mean, it's just little basic things that seem so easy, but someone that's been locked up for a few years, life has changed on the outside.
Yeah. And we don't really know what their life looked like before.
Exactly. Right. I mean, she was from a small town, way out in, I believe, Waverly, Tennessee, and she's not going to be able to go back there because that's where things happen. I mean, so it's like really helping formulate a plan to present to parole, and then to really follow through with once she gets out. Make sure she's got a halfway house, a plan, and just true rehabilitation. That's what she wants.
And how do you help her with that?
So I just make sure to encourage her, build that wall of trust to where she can open up and tell me anything, and know that I'm not going to judge her. If she slips up and, does drugs, like, she'll tell me. And we just talk through it. And then now we're getting close to parole. So she has gotten in trouble, write-ups in the past. So we're just talking through, like, her story. and practicing, like, where she came from, where she is now, what happened, how she's transitioned, and where she wants to go in life. So it's a very slow process of just making sure she kind of knows what to expect when she gets out, because it's not just going back to that lifestyle. It's, and just trying to help her get all the resources she needs and coaching her on the right halfway houses where they actually have a good program to the best of their ability. And it's not a house where it's filled with people doing drugs and fake pee tests.
Yeah. Does the prison have any programs set up, any education programs, any drug programs that she's eligible to participate in? Or what is the prison environment like aside from your program that you get the opportunity to share with her?
There's tons of classes, programs. There are some great ones. I mean, I know Lipscomb partners with them, so you can do the education route. There's certain limitations. I don't know all the details there. As far as like drug rehabilitation, I don't know anything offered. There's anger management. There is a program called the BEST program, which is awesome. It helps girls like become entrepreneurs and things like that. So, I mean, there are educational programs, yes.
And is she taking advantage of any of those?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. She tries to stay as busy as she can to, not get sucked into the bad things. So
Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah, I guess my next question would be, what kind of services, will she release here to Nashville, to a big city?
yeah, it's kind of giving me a
It's
little
gonna be pretty
anxiety.
intimidating for her.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're thinking through that because she's very much like, I know what I'm doing. And I'm just, she's very smart. She really is. She's only 28. And she has all the life ahead of her. And that's what I tell her is don't like leave here and label yourself as a felon in your past. Like, go forward and show people, how you can change and just, have that in your mind. And it's just, I coach her on, like, you have to want it, of course. And she does. She's nervous. She knows that she doesn't know exactly where her home will be. But we're just going to take it step by step. I'm going to support her on the outside too. And just make sure she's, staying right and she's not lost. I mean, people that get out and just have nowhere to go, I mean, it's just chaos.
It's pretty tragic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's lucky to have you.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm grateful that you're taking services in there and that you're caring a bit beyond just the sermon.
Right.
I think that's really important. And I'm just curious, do any of your friends volunteer in the way that you do?
I've made friends that volunteer. Okay. People react differently when I say I do prison ministry. They'll either be judgmental or not.
Or maybe a little scared of you now.
Maybe a little scared. But, it's just, even my own family is, but I'm like, you just don't understand. I mean, you have to have the heart. You've got to have the heart. You've got to have the mindset of someone that is not going to go in there and be, standoffish. I mean, you got to embrace them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What would Jesus do, right?
Exactly.
And so, do you feel like your Savior's pretty happy with you right now?
I hope so.
I think so.
I love him. He does some good things. So
yeah,
very good.
Yeah. Well, I am grateful that you have a servant's heart, and yeah, I'm very grateful for the work that you do, because I think it's really important for women to recognize and understand that people that don't necessarily have the same experience as them really do care about their well-being. And, and I know that you have convinced me over and over again to share some of my deep, dark secrets about things that I'm doing. And I know that it's for the best intention. And so I'm looking forward to us being able to collaborate and do some things here, which we'll just leave that there. But if you could share a message with other people in the community that don't have experience with prison and prisoners, I mean, what would that message be? How would you encourage somebody else? And if you could just look right over there when you give that message, just right there at that guy.
I would tell people to get involved, to have a heart, to lean in. There's a lot of people needing help right now, not enough people to help. So just have a heart and be kind and patient, and I would highly encourage helping in prison or the homeless or any way you can.
Thanks, Allison. Is there anything that you want to share that maybe I didn't ask you?
I would just like to say thank you to Ginny and all she's doing. If you haven't followed her, I would say follow her because she's doing amazing work, and it's a mountain to climb, but she's climbing it. And it's just, I can't say enough kind things about her and your work. I truly think you're just amazing, and stories are powerful. I try to encourage the girls that have overcome things to share their stories, because just like you, I mean, there's so many people that are like, wow, if she can do it, I can do it. And I mean, and that's what it is. I think there do need to be more people that have that lived experience, and then also people like me that don't, that have a different view. But it's a mix, and I think that's what's going to make it go around. But it's just people just need to soften their hearts a little bit.
It takes a village.
It is.
And you have a different kind of lived experience. And in the same way that when I share my story and people say, if she can, so can I, that's why I wanted you to share that message, because there are a whole lot of Allisons in this world that might be a little bit afraid to go do something, even though their heart is telling them, or their spirit is telling them that they should be doing more. And so you've given some really simple directives on how to get involved. And it does take a village, and you've identified some really important things, that you care, you have boundaries, you recognize the power of manipulation due to addiction, but you also recognize the human being.
Exactly.
And you're doing everything you can to help an individual learn that they can navigate this life in a different way. And I think that's really powerful, because those are really simple things that don't cost much except for our time. And so I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you for the thing. And the last thing I'll say is that I think the more people that get involved, the more these girls' hearts are going to soften, and the more they are going to find comfort in Jesus or whomever that person is for them. But that spreads.
Yeah.
I mean, love spreads. That it's simple as that. So the more people that are kind in there versus angry, that's what we need. So, but thank you. Your work is amazing, and can't wait to see your success.